it going?
Ryan, did you go to Michigan?
Uh, I did for MBA.
Oh, you did? Oh, cool. I didn't
Yeah,
know. I saw your other
but
work
but
background
yeah,
last.
I was like doing the other. Remember that we had that conversation about my work. This,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
You should keep that one
yeah.
up.
I'll keep this ugly one right here just to stand out.
Ryan, where are you based out of?
I'm in LA right now.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts?
Yeah. Right now I'm with my uh like father and mother-in-law in Walnut. But I was living in Burbank for a bit. And
Cool.
now I think we're going to be moving towards the South Bay, like around Lawrence, Manhattan Beach area.
Did you say Walnut?
Yeah, Walnut.
Oh, I was just in Walnut this past weekend
Oh, really?
at Little
What
Elephant.
brought you over here?
A Little Elephant. It's an indoor playground for kids.
Oh, I see.
My nephews.
Did you bring your kid here? How old's your kid?
Yeah, I have two, 6 and 2, and we were going for my nephew's birthday party. And it's
Oh,
a
I see.
really well done indoor kids playground.
Yeah. No, we actually just have a 2-month-old.
Oh, congrats. Wow. That's exciting. You're
Yeah. So,
thick of it.
Oh,
yeah.
right. I knew you had a newborn. I didn't realize it was a 2-month-old.
Yeah, it's just 2 months. Yeah, 2.5 one now, I guess. She'll get to her 100 days, I guess, pretty soon. I don't remember like dates now. I didn't even know today was a Wednesday. Is it a
Yeah,
Wednesday? Shit, I got
blur.
it.
Uh, well, soon you will be going to Little Elephant. It's really cute.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Jenny, Sandy. Wow, a lot of our clients are on here too. Thinking of
Hi.
your realtor, getting your license.
Interested in something to potentially pick up during mat leave.
Mm.
Probably not a career switch, but like very
Yeah.
interested, or at least baseline understanding. So could get better at like real estate investing.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Get those classes done while you're on mat leave. Get your license.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
In
a
2 minutes. 5 minutes after, or at 5:35, we'll get started. FYI.
Hi, Sandy. Hi, team.
Hi. I actually might have a referral for you, Connie.
Oh.
So I just need to talk to them and make sure it's actually LA County, so that they're looking for.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
I send Cliff referrals all the time. Only one of them's panned out so far.
Hey.
Oh, yeah. Thanks so much, Sandy. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Yeah.
Cliff, good to see you, man. And Connie, great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. Thanks
Awesome.
for
Are you
hosting.
working from home?
I am working from home, but I like to pretend I'm in the office. hence the
You look
background.
very official at the office.
Yeah, the frozen woman in the doorway gives it away. It's a Zoom background, but
Nice.
Are you thinking about your real estate license, Hata?
uh,
Or maybe Steph?
you know those Gatorade commercials, Be Like Mike.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's always been Be Like Cliff. How do you
Aw.
be more like Cliff? So you set the example for us all, man.
Well, I feel like you've been always really interested in real estate, so
It's been a personal interest. Yeah, for sure.
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. 5:35. Let's get started.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for joining. This is really cool. We have a mix of some clients and some other folks, I think, who are just in the real estate industry. So this was a fun session that Connie and I thought about a few months ago. The premise is, so you want to be a real estate agent, and we kind of had, playing off of, so you think you could dance. And we get this question, no kidding, maybe once, like clockwork, once every few weeks. There's a friend or a past client or someone who reaches out, and just, it always starts very innocuously, like, hey, do you have a few minutes to catch up? And it's just out of the blue. And so it always leads to questions just about being a real estate agent. And so we figured, why not do a session that we can record, that we could share out with folks who might be interested in the future of what it's like to be a real estate agent. And so we're gonna, throughout the session, we want to keep it really conversational. So feel free to chime in with questions at any point. But we're gonna share some stories from the field, from our experience. We're also going to, share some insights, what we think makes a really good real estate professional, and what kind of distinguishes maybe our team from other teams, just to kind of give you a glimpse of how we've done it and how, I think, how we've kind of created Willowmar. And just to give you a little bit of background here's our team. We're proud of the team that we've assembled. It's 10 agents. A few people aren't pictured in this team photo, along with a few operations folks, folks that help full-time for operations, listing coordination, marketing. We also have 2 folks who help with transaction coordination as well. So there's a lot of kind of behind the scenes work that goes into a beautiful listing, and also even on the buyer side, making that kind of a seamless transition and transaction process. For those of you who are new to Willowmar and just kind of learning about our company a little bit, I guess to toot our horn, but also maybe that's why you decided to join the session, is to see what it's like to build a successful real estate team. We're one of the top teams in the Bay Area. In the last few years, we've done over 100 million in sales, which puts us as the number 8 small team based on team size in San Francisco. So we're really proud of that. And all of the growth in terms of our team has also been organic as well. In terms of agents that we've brought on, just really focusing on good people within our network who are passionate about real estate. And I think we really believe that we can train folks to learn the real estate agent side of the job, as long as they come in with kind of a good foundation, right? And passionate about this role. And then also similarly in terms of how the business has developed over the years, and we'll get into it a little bit too, talking a little bit about how Connie and Kenny originally started this a few years ago. And that's all been organic as well. Unlike a lot of other teams, we don't do any advertisement. There's no Zillow ad that you'll see for Willowmar. You won't see any like Yelp ads or anything like that. And that's all been organic, and it's been through referrals, like great clients like Sandy mentioned earlier that she's referred a bunch of folks to us. And I think that's been kind of the cornerstone of how we've decided to build this business, which is putting our clients first, and then everything else will kind of take care of itself.
Yes. Speak of that referral, Lisa Lee, who's on this call, we've helped her friend's brother, her friend's brother's parents. Like, it's amazing how the cycle and kind of the Willowmar client family extends and webs into each other.
Yeah, that's actually a really common theme too. I mean, we're trying to share kind of behind the scenes of how a successful real estate team is built. That actually, I think, is a telltale sign when you meet a real estate professional, and if you find that they've actually helped, like exactly what Connie described, like they've effectively helped an entire family through their real estate process and transactions and 1031 exchange and all the complicated things that can unfold with real estate, because that really is a telltale sign that they trust that real estate person with their family members, and they've referred to kind of their key folks in their lives. So maybe we could start with some intros. Connie, you could go first and introduce yourself.
Yeah, some of you may already know us. I'm Connie Chung, one of the founders. When it was Kenny, the third partner, we were actually friends before we became real estate business partners. And he's my best friend to this day, which is unusual in many instances. Sometimes these partnerships don't always work out, but actually our friendship before we even formalized a working partnership, and you'll see this in real estate. Sometimes you'll see husband and wife or mother-daughter. It's a very interconnected relationship or business working relationship. And sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't, as we've seen. But Kenny and I, because he's my best friend, we actually prioritized our friendship. And before we even became formal business partners, we dated with clients, where we just tried working with clients together to see if it would even work out. And it worked out so well. Our clients really benefited. We enjoyed it. And that became the sort of the genesis of working together. Our brand was Connie and Kenny. And then at a point, we knew we wanted to grow and not be the face of our company. And Cliff just happened to reach out at the perfect time when we weren't even thinking of growing, but it was all kind of just like what Cliff mentioned of wanting to work with good people. And when you meet someone really great, and I've known Cliff since we were in high school, we weren't close friends, but we would stay in contact, and I just knew Cliff would be awesome to work with. And partnered together. But kind of going into that story, a little bit about me. I'm terrible at talking about myself. I've been in this business for almost 10 years now. Early on in my career, I've been fortunate to get awarded the National Association of Realtors 30 Under 30. Went to Cal and studied peace and conflict studies and public policy, thinking I wanted to go into politics. And I have always loved real estate and have renovated a number of homes in the Bay and also in LA.
And so Connie and I actually went to high school together. We're actually debate partners. So that's kind of a fun fact between us. But yeah, we also both went to Cal. And I previously worked in tech, which I think was really helpful in many ways, starting off in real estate, because I think I got a lot of, like, as we're growing the company now, I think it's given me a lot of foundational pieces, kind of pulling from kind of that startup background. So that's kind of a side note. And I also, I kind of initially got into real estate on the investing side. So just seeing things kind of through the lens of an investor, and then through Connie and Kenny, learned more about the real estate, I guess, sales and service side of things. So we had a question for the group. We're wondering, I don't know if any brave souls out there, but we're wondering what are you hoping to get out of today? Or what are some questions?
What brought you here today? What do you want to get out of this? Because we sure have our presentation and our talking points, but really this is catered to the folks who have attended to really make the most and really be in service of you. So feel free to put it in the chat if you don't want to see it out loud, or unmute yourself and feel free to add. Ryan, come on, you sacrificed being away from your 2-month-old who we got to see a little bit of. What do you want to get out of today?
Yeah. So I was actually gonna let Hatim go first because it's like I think this is just what do you want to get out of today to be more like Cliff. So I think I'm just gonna leverage that a little bit. I think it's been inspiring actually. Like every time I talk to Cliff, I feel like that I'm learning something, and also I want to just learn a little bit more. So ultimately, it's like there are some aspirations that are a little bit more grandeur in terms of like where I want to be, and it's going to take steps to get there. But like if I were a real estate agent, kind of understand first off the process of being one, right? Like it's not like going to get a driver's license, right? Like you go into the DMV, you take a test, and then all of a sudden you walk out with a driver's license. And so like kind of breaking down those steps of what I need to do, like how do the brokerages kind of work in terms of kind of working with them and making sure you get listed with them. Things that I've heard of but might not have gotten super clear clarity on. And so yeah.
Cool.
I'm happy to add a thought or two there as well. Two things come to mind. One is just like something that I was contemplating coming into this session, which is I'd love to hear, Connie, I don't know if you were in this position. Cliff, I know you were, but like the process of going from having like a full-time salaried job to being like, I'm gonna then, obviously become my own, I don't know how you put, like, it's essentially an entrepreneur or like small business owner, right? And so when my wife and I have had this conversation, like this pie in the sky idea, like, man, if we were both real estate agents, how many homes would we need to sell to replace our current income? And quickly we realized, like, oh my God, that's a lot of homes. That ain't happening anytime soon. And so, like, how did you guys get over that emotional hurdle of saying, like, I can take this leap and have confidence that I can, actually make this a full-time thing that sustains myself and my family? So I'd love to just hear that transition for both of you and how you went through it and practically what it means. That's one. And then the second thing, I'm just responding to what you said earlier, which is like, I'm amazed that you built this business with $0 in marketing. So now I'm just really curious how you pull that off, because I feel like that's really rare, and like real estate marketing is everywhere you go, all around you. So yeah, just now very curious, how you guys did that.
Oh, all good questions. And we'll give some good case studies too of some of our teammates, because some of our teammates still have their jobs, and that's a huge contention to go from salary to commission based. So, and we'll get to the marketing. Anyone else? Chris, what do you want to get out of today if you're able to share?
Hello everyone. So I'm actually planning on getting my realtor's license next year, I think. I was talking to Selena about it. I don't want to do it as a full-time thing. but I really feel passionate about real estate, and I want to stay involved in it, maybe not in a primary capacity, but in a secondary capacity. So I'm mostly just here to learn.
Jenny?
Um, I actually, so I guess my background is really similar to yours, Cliff, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story, the transition, and just like the investing side as well. In particular, maybe like what part-time might look like, how to best dip the toe into that, and then is a real estate license necessary for investing, or how does it help, or what are like the things that have been most helpful in terms of augmenting that experience there?
So, Con, you think we should hold off? Should we answer the questions now, or?
We'll kind of answer them throughout the slides, because some of
Yeah.
them we have kind of embedded in.
Okay. Yeah, and if we don't get to them, then we can answer them during Q. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, thanks all for sharing all of that. But yeah, really exciting to hear all of that input. We just needed to have this slide so that we set the expectation. This job is not like selling Sunset. It's not like $1 Million Listing. Although those are really entertaining shows to watch, but the real job is unlike that. I actually think it's actually more gratifying. It's actually it's different, of course, but it's just not the glitz and the glamour. At least the way that we've run a little more.
Although I will say, I actually watched $1 Million Listing as inspiration for, while I was studying to get my license. So it is fun and entertaining, and it's fascinating actually when you do have a real estate kind of perspective to watch the episodes. It's like it's insightful in many ways.
Yeah. Connie, what are some of your highlights from and most memorable stories?
Yeah, in terms of highlights, kind of, it's really powerful when you start working with people, especially because coming from a place where there's always the saying of like, you shouldn't work with your friends and family, and being such a family oriented and person who I have such good close friends, not wanting to put those relationships at risk, to actually, because real estate is so personal, it's really enriched my relationships with both family and friends, where a lot of family members have become clients. My sister actually works in our LA team. We certainly had our growing pains, and even within our team we have our own growing pains, but it's really cool to think that it's powerful. You can have a really powerful personal relationship in a professional setting, and both in the working team aspect, but also in the client relationship aspect, because real estate embeds so many people's personal lives, that to be that resource for them, to be the advocate, to be a guide, it's really empowering and very satisfying. That's one of my highlights. There are many, and there are many lowlights too in this job. I think to speak to how this job is unlike kind of glitzy shows like $1 Million Listing and whatnot. There's certainly some of that. I mean, you see such incredible homes, the resources that go into real estate, especially in markets like the Bay Area and LA. I'm constantly inspired by the homes I go into and the stories I learn behind them, the architecture. I love design, and that's a big driving force for me. There's a lot of that, like in the shows, but the reality in the day-to-day, you are in the field. It's not always so pretty. A lot of times you're in front of a computer, you're doing a lot of research on data, reading contracts, heavy inspection reports, not fun stuff. One low light, one of my first open houses I did ever as a new agent was in Nob Hill. It was a condominium complex, and there was human feces right at the front door of the open house, and it was 10 minutes before the open house. Luckily, my husband came with me to help me set up, and he actually ran to the Walgreens down the street and bought supplies to help clean it up. But as a realtor, you wear so many hats, and there are going to be a lot of unglamorous parts of that, and it's not so much a low light, but it's just the reality of the job. And I would say those who can succeed are the agents who are willing to just roll with the punches. A lot of being a realtor is kind of putting out fires, because there's going to be stuff that's unexpected, unplanned for, out of your control, and it's how you kind of navigate that with within yourself and also with clients and all the other parties that are involved, the lender, the escrow officer, the inspector. You are sort of the conductor of the whole orchestra, and you set that tone and the energy for everyone. Cliff.
To share a couple stories, yeah, my highlight, I love recalling this moment because so the highlight is I remember I was touring with some clients, and we left the second home, and then we get to the third home and the clients are bawling. They're just crying. And I'm just thinking, I just saw them like 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago. What happened between that moment? And they're like, you're the first person to know. I haven't told, and we haven't had a chance to tell our family or anything, but the doctor just called and we found out that we're pregnant. And they had been trying for so long. And it was just like such a special moment to have um, with friends and clients. So I always remember that moment. And then low light is kind of on the flip side. I remember a friend of mine who was always messaging me. This was when I first got into the business, and they were saying, "Oh, I'd love to be one of your first clients. I know how hard it is to get started and all of that." And it was really nice text and everything. And then lo and behold, like a year later, I find out that they actually had bought a home, and they never contacted me about that. But similar to kind of what Connie was saying, I use that as an opportunity to really grow and learn too, because in my head, I tried to think of that as like, well, I needed to keep in better contact with folks, because maybe there was a reason why they didn't reach out to me. But that was a blow, especially like early on, just feeling like, hey, you were hoping your close friends would work with you, or at least give you a chance to work with them, and then they didn't. So, Con, by the way, there's a lot of glare with your camera, so you might need to turn it a little bit.
Oh, good to know, Cameron.
Cool. So I thought it'd be nice for us to share a little bit about like what drew us into real estate and what initially got us into it, and then what keeps us in it. So I think for me, a lot of it was, and this is, I think, come up a lot with when you chat with other real estate agents, just going to open houses as kids. A lot of fond memories just going to open houses with my dad. Whenever we would just drive and there's like a few extra minutes, he'd be like, "Hey, let's go check out that home." And that's definitely, I think, a reason that at least sparked my interest in real estate. And I joke, but just being Chinese and growing up in a Chinese household or half Chinese household, there was a lot of talk about real estate growing up. And I think that also has kind of set the foundation to be at least thinking about real estate as I got older.
So much of it's part of the American dream is to own your own piece of real estate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I think for me, like what really kind of sparked that interest getting into it, well, one, I think we shared about how Connie was in it first, and we were friends, but not the greatest of friends. But I think knowing that she had built a really successful business, that just helped kind of um, made it a little bit more palpable, kind of the decision to get into real estate. I think maybe that kind of goes into what Hatem was asking earlier. Like, don't get me wrong, the transition from going from a W-2 stable career to getting into real estate where you're on your own essentially is a really, really scary leap. I fully understand. And maybe even having a spouse like my wife, Misan, who works in tech, that certainly kind of helps, right? Because there needs to be maybe some planning there, financial planning, at least when you're getting started. But what has kept me in it is just how dynamic the industry is and how much learning there is. I think it's hard to put into words how much personal growth you go through when you are, it's maybe not even specific to real estate, but just being a small business owner. Because you, as Kenny, our third business partner puts it so eloquently, it's like a mirror that's held up on you. Like your insecurities, things that you're not good at communicating, things that you need to work on become front and center because that impacts your business. And if you don't work on those things and you don't improve on those things, then you might not build those client relationships. You might not get that next client to work with you.
Yeah. And we have, hi Tyler, good to see you. Yeah, what drew me into real estate? I think similarly to a lot of folks here, kind of just the fascination with real estate and how powerful it is. I think a lot of us have seen it firsthand with our family members or with people, in this world. Some of the most successful, certainly the most affluent people are somehow tied to real estate. I loved interior design and I wanted to be an interior designer, but I didn't want to go back to school and pay and accumulate debt and go from design school. So I actually thought, why don't I learn the business aspect of real estate? And having gone to a lot of open houses as a kid and just love that. So I got my license, and simultaneously at this time, I was working at a domestic violence shelter in San Francisco in the nonprofit world, and wanting a career change. I loved my job a lot, but I was wanting kind of more dynamism and challenges. And but venturing off to a commission-based salary was really scary. So actually, in terms of had to answer your question about that transition, I committed to my job for 3 months before fully making that transition. And I will say, I was so angsty by the end of the 3 months to just be done, because there's so much in real estate to get done. And I think in the Bay Area, the market's really dynamic, which helps. Similarly to LA, I think kind of the bigger cities have a more dynamic market that helps to kind of drive business, hopefully, especially if you're keeping in touch with people, or have a robust network that you can work and just build. I think that's key. What still keeps me in it, because this job is there are definitely moments where I've had some burnout, because it's an industry where you can just work to the bone and there's no one telling you to stop. And because you hold a lot of emotional weight of your clients, of yourself, you're dealing with high financial stakes. It's very exhausting. And also you're dealing with a lot of people's fears and their own anxieties. And as service providers, we carry that, and it's exhausting, but it's so dynamic. You can wear so many hats and it's so rewarding. And I think even just the iteration of how Willamar has evolved, where it used to just be Kenny and I as the front end agents, and now we do still, at least I still provide client service. Kenny's actually fully back end, and he's decided he doesn't want to interact with clients anymore, where we've been able to grow in a way that allows us to do what we really love. And I think that's incredible, in the power of real estate that keeps us in it.
And we'll talk about it more in some of the subsequent slides, but also shifting and understanding that this is like a service job, not a sales job, I think is a really important moment in a real estate agent professional's career.
To answer your question, Hatem, what does it mean to be fully back end? So Kenny's, I would say, is not so much client facing. For example, he's not doing client email coordination or communication. He's not helping clients with their prepping their home for sale. He's more kind of behind the scenes as our COO in many ways, in terms of helping with the operations of how our company runs, really training our agents. We do a lot of mentorship and coaching. So not so much client facing is what I mean. Although last year he took on a few clients, because he's so good at what he does that it's hard for him not to, but he prefers actually to not be client facing. And this job is very client facing, but this job is also very service based. And there's a lot of ways to do that for the team. And he really is the driver of Willamar in that capacity. Ooh.
Sorry, just one quick follow-up there. Is that like a role that someone could have on a real estate team, and that's a pretty common thing? Or is he more of an exception, where most people on this call, or most people that you guys interact with, you would think about as being a pretty kind of, more generally or more often a client-facing, where you're dealing with listings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say we run things pretty uniquely that I don't think it's very common, but we've been able to make it work and to make it sustainable. And but I would say every real estate team runs differently. And so, yeah, everything we're sharing is one iteration, and also from our own insights and best practices. But there are so many ways to succeed and thrive in this industry, where we've seen all kinds of dynamic team relationships, where it might be just two people, and one person is doing both front facing, client facing, as well as all of the operations. So, or we will see some teams where they have a sales manager, meaning that person manages kind of the sales production and sees it more as a sales role amongst the team of agents. We kind of see it a little holistically in the sense of, yes, their sales is a major aspect of what we do as real estate agents. We sell homes, but we also see a lot of interpersonal and personal development that comes out of being an agent, and goals kind of within and outside of the realm of real estate too that we hold. And we there's a lot of systems and operations that we use as agents, and really honing in on what are the latest tools to use, how can we make our jobs easier, how can we hone in on our superpower and focus on that, because there's so many things you can work on as an agent, but it's nice when you get to zone in on what you enjoy and doing, and that makes a big impact.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One of Kenny's big roles that he plays on the team is he's effectively a coach for our agents. And so I think that's may be part of our secret sauce as yeah. And for any of you who are thinking about getting into the real estate, sorry, this is kind of a little bit of a tangent, but probably very appropriate for this slide of like what makes someone a top tier agent. I would say a good chunk of the top tier agents that I know all have coaches as well, because it relates to all the fears and insecurities of someone getting into this industry. But at every point, I think there's a lot of just that it's more of a mental game than anything, because I think at the end of the day, the nuts and bolts of how to prepare a home and get that ready for sale, I think once you've done enough of that, enough reps of that, I think you can be pretty proficient. But there's a lot of just mental games of like, hey, I don't think I can sell a $10 million home. I don't think I can talk to those types of clients. For whatever reason, people just have those types of fears. And I think a lot of coaching can help you break through that. And so that's a huge role that Kenny plays.
And Cliff, in the case of Kenny, obviously he was an agent. Are those coaches generally always, they've been agents themselves, or can it just be like a broader career coach?
Yeah.
Either one, yeah. I mean, there are in the real estate industry, there are a lot of like former real estate agents who don't want to transact anymore, and they become coaches. That is a common thing. But you can also just get like a business performance coach, and I think
Got it.
deal with a lot of similar things. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it helps to have a coach or a mentor or someone to guide you, because as a real estate agent, you are a sole practitioner, an independent contractor, and you are doing things alone for the most part, unless you're part of a team dynamic. But even then, you are your sole entrepreneur, and it can be very lonely. It can be daunting, and to have that person you can bounce ideas with and lean on is key, especially for those emotional aspects. Learning is going to, of course, be the contractual, all the hard skills we'll get into. You can learn that. It's actually the softer skills sometimes that's harder to learn.
Maybe that's a good segue to talk about kind of the next section of like hard skills versus soft skills.
Yeah. What are the hard skills, Cliff?
So when it comes to what makes someone a top tier agent, like don't get me wrong, because I think up until this point, Connie and I have talked a lot about more maybe like woo-woo stuff of just like how to build a brand, how to build a company and all of that. But don't get me wrong, there are a lot of hard skills that you need to develop, right? And those come through reps, that comes through understanding the transaction process, right? You have to have passion for it. You need to have deep understanding. You need to have a vendor list, especially on the listing side, that your clients can turn to, that you can turn to make sure that your home is prepared and ready for sale. And negotiations, contract, disclosures, all those things are I always like to say with the hard skills, the tough part about becoming a real estate agent is in other jobs, I think there's always like a warm-up. There's like an internship or something that you do for practice. In real estate, you're just kind of thrown into the arena from the jump, right? And you might be helping your friend, or it's usually someone in your close sphere with that first transaction, but there's no practice round that you get. And that's, I think, the troublesome part, I think, about starting off with the industry. And so those are the hard skills that you need to develop: understanding the timeline, managing that process. And really, when you're thinking about, especially in the Bay Area, right, most folks, it's a high financial situation, right? Stressful, potentially pretty stressful situation. There isn't really room for error. And that's where I think the hard skills are so imperative. And you'd expect that from all the top tier agents.
Yeah, soft skills. This sometimes is harder to teach. It's just, how do you build trust with someone that you just met at an open house, or even you've known them for so long, but how do you build their trust in getting them to allow you to manage their largest financial asset because of all the other things they might know about you. It's having empathy. This is so huge, is really being able to read someone or read the room and speak to that with emotional intelligence, having a lot of patience, but also being persistent, because in many cases, people are ready when they're ready, and you have to be willing to be patient with that, but also to follow up as needed. And being able to regulate your own emotions through all of this while you're trying to figure out the other person's emotions, to shift your kind of identity in some ways, or at least be able to adapt and relate to people, but be your authentic self. Sometimes that's actually really hard for people in a realtor setting, because they feel like they have to be the realtor they see on TV or on Instagram. But we found that the more you can lean into being who you are authentically, the more people will trust you and will really enjoy working with you, and you will find that the same with yourself. And setting expectations with all parties, it's pretty huge sometimes, especially when you don't want to let someone down, someone you love and or really respect, or want them to respect you. And because in real estate, sometimes there's hard truths to deliver that it can be really challenging, and you want to people please, but being able to kind of fine tune your communication in all regards, both exciting news, but also the hard news, is really key. And I always like to say, in a challenging transaction, I love it, because that's when you as a realtor get to show your value to your client. Because sometimes when an escrow is so smooth sailing, if anyone's bought a home and it was just so easy, a lot of clients, they might think like, they might really appreciate you and be like, yeah, they made it so easy. But someone will think like, well, that I could have done that myself, or that was a walk in the park. But sometimes it's in those challenging ones where you really handhold your client and you're there advocating on their behalf. You're in the muck with them, that they actually remember you. And I think that's when I sort of love the challenging ones, because those are the cases that allow us to show up for our clients. And that's how we're even more memorable. And we have some really big raving fans because of that. But certainly it's always nice when they're much smoother.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is I think when people see these two slides, they go, okay, that makes sense. There's hard skills and soft skills, but I think actually the marriage of both of those is kind of the secret sauce of what makes someone a top tier agent. Because like left brain, right brain, it's like I think inherently most people are like, I'm more analytical, I'm more numbers driven. And I think for me, I had to learn a lot more of these soft skills, especially more empathy, and really understanding that there is a huge emotional component to buying home. Even if all the boxes are checked, they still might not want to submit an offer on home. They might not consider an offer on home, and learning how to navigate that. And I think vice versa, there's some people who are much more emotionally driven and they know how to connect with clients in that way. But when it comes to, hey, well, I want to understand price per square foot in this neighborhood. Hey, I want to understand maybe cap rates if they're talking about investment property. Are they able to zig and zag with those clients and then be able to be a little bit more universal and just help clients on both situations? And uniquely, usually with couples, there might be one person who's more analytical, one person that's a little bit more emotional. So you're needing to be able to plug into both scenarios a little bit, and not just only cater to one person in the relationship.
Oh, real estate agent versus professional. And so we share this as, there are kind of the standards of being an agent, and then it's what's that next tier of how to differentiate yourself. And real estate agents are known to be very transactional, yes, because you are really shepherding a transaction of getting one person into contract on a home of their dreams and the path to ownership, or helping a seller client sell their home. There are certainly transactional aspects to the relationship and the process. But we found that it can be very limiting in the role of an agent when you have a fixed mindset, when you think, things are just the way they are, and you're just focused on the sale. Like, I just need to get this done. And you keep to kind of that limited knowledge, and thinking that all you know is the right way, and that's the only way, and have sort of a flat linear growth in business. The way to differentiate that and really step up as a professional advisor in real estate is not seeing kind of this role as a transactional role, but really a relationship-based role, where you have these long-term relationships with clients, and it goes to show kind of back where with Lisa's, we've helped so many of her friends and family, but also so many of her friends and family. And that's really building that relationship at the core is so crucial. Being deeply concerned about clients, their needs, being in service to them. We always tell clients, like our approach to being a real estate agent to them is our goal is to give them all of the information and options so they can make the most informed decision. Ultimately, they are the driver and we are just shepherding them along the process so they feel empowered and as the driver. And it's fascinating in this role. There's just so much to learn. There are agents who are in this 70 plus years and they will tell us like they're still learning things to this day. And I think that's what makes this job really exciting. And I think if you're constantly in the pursuit of growing and learning, you will love being in real estate because there's plenty to learn and you don't learn it until you're in it. And yeah, personally, and in terms of real estate, because there's every transaction is so different from the other, but there's so much to learn about yourself, which is really satisfying, and even within your own personal relationships with people.
One client that comes to mind is another Ryan. But like I think kind of articulates kind of like the difference between this, like over the years with this client, and maybe I shouldn't have said his name because client confidentiality, but it's like it's been really cool to see the evolution of the type of questions that he's come to ask Connie. So for example, he first bought his condo in San Francisco, it eventually became a rental property. So talking through like rent versus selling and kind of thinking through that process. I remember one of his, I think it was his sister that bought a home down in Los Angeles, felt like they weren't connected with that good of a real estate professional down there, maybe more of a real estate agent. And I remember there's kind of a lot of back channeling of like, hey, the real estate agent in LA said this. Connie, is that what you would do? Is that what you would help advise in that situation? And I remember kind of cross country moves and thinking about all of that. So it really becomes a relationship of developing everything real estate related for that person, for that person's family members, and all of that. You can really be an advisor to them through all of that. And really the only way I think a real estate professional can provide all those service is if they are constantly learning as well. Because initially maybe you're helping someone buy and just sell their home, but it can become a lot more complicated if they start getting into 1031 exchange, thinking about investment portfolio, thinking about balancing their portfolio between real estate and other investments, for example. And really you can only articulate and have those conversations if you as a real estate professional are thinking advising them, and also trying to just be more concerned about what their needs are and thinking through those with them.
Yeah. What's fascinating too is as an agent, you get to service clients, but you also get to connect people within the realtor community. I will say so much of the relationships are with clients and people, but so much of relationships are with other agents. And we've had clients win an offer on a home with the margin of $2,000 because of the agent relationship we had. And so definitely want to put some emphasis on that. And we actually refer so many of our clients and friends and people come to us and say, hey, can you help me find an agent in Austin? Or do you know anyone in Las Vegas? And so we've built a really strong realtor community nationally. And that's really powerful when you get to connect people with other good people. Some parting words and tips for new agents. I think let's get to one question, Chris. No, Ryan had about, yeah, or I think it was Chris and Ryan, both of you, probably some kind of parallel. Like, what are the processes to even getting your license? And, say I want to pursue this, what do I do? What's next? I'm in a hotel room and someone's ringing the doorbell, but Cliff, you want to share that?
Yeah. So the process to get your license, I think our mentality whenever we talk to aspiring real estate agents is like, get your license ASAP. Take the classes. It's 3 online classes that you need to take, and then you need to schedule your exam. And as of at least a few months ago, there's a pretty big backlog to get your license, the exam scheduled. So try to get that out of the way, and not just to push it out of the way, but just know that I think a lot of the courses that you take for your real estate license, they're foundational in some ways, but they're not the most applicable to the day-to-day. So that's why we just encourage folks to, just get your license. And then also once you have your license, you have a lot more that you can add to a team or a brokerage that you're joining. Then you can actually start shadowing, you can start hosting open houses. But prior to that, you're very limited in what you can help with and learn effectively.
I highly recommend the online programs that they have. There are a lot of online companies that provide the 3 courses, because essentially you need 3 courses and then you take your California state exam. The 3 courses, you can buy a bundled package. I did mine with Chamberlain Real Estate. There's so many out there, and you can Google. I bet there's even more today. You take an exam at the end of each one of those courses. It's all open book. Control F was my friend. Make it yours. But yeah, just get through it as fast as possible, because it really is not applicable to the practice. And I would tell new agents or aspiring agents, don't try to absorb the information, because it actually is very it's very hard to consume. Some of it is memorization, but and good to know. I won't discredit that, but in effort to just get your license, I would try to just go through it. And then when you do take the state exam, it is important to study for that, because and to take a lot of practice tests online, which you can find as well, because they recycle the questions. They'll sometimes move around the answers, but all of the questions are pretty much the same questions they've been for many years.
Chris suggested First Tuesday, and I've heard that's a good program as well for online. And then I used Rockwell Institute, if you want a few to scope out.
All these new ones. Jenny, to clarify, the courses, the exam for the courses are open book. The state exam is not. I failed my first time, so don't feel bad if you failed. It's not a sign of how you'll be as a realtor. Ooh, and build your community. This one's huge. Say you want to pursue this full-time or maybe even part-time, is finding that mentor, because so much of being an agent and succeeding is just learning by doing. And the more exposure you can get to transactions or to clients, to properties, the more it'll fill your information bank. And that goes so much, it goes very far. If you're a learn by doing, you will really thrive in real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this job is just so relationship driven, not only on the client side, but I think new agents fail to think about the complexity of the relationships and how many sides of the marketplace there are. So there's obviously the client relationship that you need to build, but there's a whole other side of building relationships with other real estate agents as well. Listing agents, for example, because oftentimes as a new agent, you'll probably start more on the buyer side, and how you treat listing agents and how you develop those relationships can help your clients effectively. It doesn't happen every time, but there's been countless times where we've effectively, because we have a good relationship with the listing agent, they might give us some hints as to where we need to come in or where the other offers are, because they want. It's so relationship driven. Obviously, listing agents want to work with buyers agents that they want to work with. It's just a natural human tendency. So I think that's really, really important. It's just thinking about building that community, but focusing on all sides of it too.
On that point, would you guys mind touching on, it's interesting, like I'm almost thinking about an analogy between, being a real estate professional and like my current job in VC, right? Like I think as a VC, you're sourcing opportunities, you're doing transactions, and then you're advising, in this case, startup founders or whatever, but you guys touched on all of those elements as well. And I'd love to hear your take on that first piece on the sourcing side. Going back to my question around not spending anything in marketing, like, do you guys think about some percentage of your day or week spent on like, hey, I have to spend X% of my time like hunting for opportunities, potential buyers, potential sellers, or is it something that's just developed much more organically based on your networks and that community that you developed? Are you relying on Zillow? Like, just curious how you guys think about like top of funnel leads, if you will. Yeah.
I'll speak to this. So much of in our sort of process and systems of how we work as a team, a big part of that is our prospecting, of kind of how do you source clients, and because 90% of our clients come from word of mouth and past clients, we know that relationships are where we want to invest in. So we encourage our teammates to have, 3 coffee dates or lunches a week or check-ins, whatever is most manageable to each agent on the team. And, it's very much community-based and neighborhood-based, relationship-based networking in that sense. So that's sort of how we've invest our energies and money. So we definitely spend money. We don't spend money on typical marketing, but we spend tons of money on client gifts, thank you gifts, referral gifts, lunches. We were really generous with that. We have a lot of client parties and experiences. We did a dumpling making event for our clients. We have an inner circle network where we invite clients who are our biggest cheerleaders, our raving fans, where they get invited to an exclusive event to network with other clients. So it's a different type of marketing budget that we put aside, and that works for us. We've also done some, because relationships are the key, we do neighborhood advertisements. For example, in Golden Gate Mothers Group, I raise my kids in the Bay and investing in the Golden Gate Mothers Group with ads. So there's some minimal kind of marketing dollars that do go into communities we're part of already.
Yeah. Yeah, just to add to that hot tip, yeah, I think it's a really good question, because I think as our team is getting a little bit bigger, we are trying to figure out what is the right balance. Some teams, for example, and we don't believe in this philosophy, but it's like pick up your phone and call 20 people a day and checklist, like it just becomes a whole, and goes back to what we're saying about agent versus professional. If you're just calling and cold calling all people on your phone book, I don't think you're building the relationships that you need to build this business in the right way. So I think the advice that we give to our teammates is figure out which communities you want to be plugged in, that you're passionate about, that you care about. I love playing basketball. I love, whatever it is. And just be yourself in those communities. And as you build relationships, you will find clients there too, because inevitably real estate may come up in those conversations. You don't need to sell them and lead with that, because if they know you're a good person capable at the job, I think you'll have a seat at the table to win their business at some point. So that's kind of our philosophy, but we are trying to figure out what is a balance, because I know that's kind of a little bit nebulous, and how do we fit that in with a bigger team a little bit. So
yeah. Also,
and yes, dinner will be on you next time.
Yeah, dinner's on Cliff next time for all of you. Yeah, there are a million ways to prospect and to source clients in this industry. It's really honing in on what you enjoy doing, what's successful, and also trial and error. We certainly have tried all kinds of things too, and that's part of the fun of this business. I love this next tip is huge, and I will share a good story. Do not be attached to the outcome. I think it's so easy for agents, because you're commission based, to think like, oh my gosh, I need to close this so I can get X commission, blah blah. As a new agent, I remember my second client ever. I was brand new, and this client was looking for a $3 million home. And also this client, we were in contract. He was very non-responsive to the deadlines that we had to meet per the contract. And it was aggravating. And I just kept thinking how is this going to make me look to my colleagues? I all did all this work and it's not going to pay off. It's so easy to think of all the things related to the outcome. And it's devastating, and things will fall out of contract or out of escrow, and that's so normal. So the sooner you can detach from that and just focus on being of service and doing all the things within your own control, you'll really be able to succeed and to let go of what you just simply don't have control over. But yeah, this client, I remember, the sale did happen. It was very painstaking because also I was new. So of course I was learning a lot of new things along the way of setting expectations, client communication. But it was a way to show up and to just be the best self and keep all parties abreast of what I knew, be as transparent as possible while advocating for my client, and protecting them. And at the end of the day, this client has since referred me many clients. So it's really in sometimes these challenging escrows, as I mentioned, that you really do build and solidify that relationship.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this a little bit, but I think that's there isn't a one size fits all roadmap to success in this industry. I think that's also what's kept us in it, what keeps it so fun and engaging. And it's also just been really cool to see agents on our team find their own ways to succeed. So I think parting words to new agents is like you need to build those foundational blocks. You need to understand the hard skills as we talked about and understand the soft skills. But once you figure that out, then you don't need to mimic and copy after that. And I think that's part of it's all I don't know, it's all related to so many of the things that we talked about because that's part of the personal growth journey too. As Connie mentioned earlier, like that's how you will be the most successful in this industry too, is being yourself, your authentic self.
Yeah, having great mentors. We still have mentors in this industry to this day, which is huge. And I think that speaks for almost every profession.
It kind of goes back to the coaching piece a little bit, but for, I think for new agent, there's always a decision. Do I start off on my own and go to whatever brokerage, or do I join a team like a Willamar? And either path, I think you can be very successful. Not I think, you can be successful either way, but also in both paths to be successful, you need to have mentorship. There's just so many situations where you just haven't had enough experience, especially early on, and that mentor can cut those mistakes, can help you be aware of your blind spots and all of that, similar to what we are saying for coaching. But mentorship is imperative, in my opinion.
Ooh, well, we're wrapping up towards the end, but quickly, we hear a lot of people who want to get in this industry because they think of having a flexible schedule. The flexibility, we hear that a ton. I will say that's true only to a tiny percent. Ultimately, you do control your schedule, and the more you learn how to do that, the more successful you will be. But so much of it is in service to clients where you are working off their schedule. I mean, most people have normal working hours. So a lot of weekends, weeknights are involved, long nights when you're trying to put an offer at the 11th hour because a client just saw the home and offers are due the next day and you want to, have that speedy turnaround time. So I will try to erase that myth as soon as possible because yes, you do have a lot of freedom and flexibility, but don't let that be your driving force to getting into this industry. Oh, let's talk about income. Being that it is commission based, definitely kind of thinking through what makes most sense for you in terms of what are your goals, what are your aspirations in terms of, especially for folks who are coming from a salary, regular W-9, what if you work backwards? Yeah, kind of what Hatim said. How many homes do you need to sell in order to sustain your family?
And related to that, what's nice too about being in a profession like this is there is no cap as well. So I think that is also inspiring for folks, right? If they want to continue to build their business or get into a higher price point or all of that, there is no cap, right? It's not like you're in a salary band, which you might be if you're working a W-2 job. And then the last point here, your friend's aunt's neighbor's son just bought a home. It's not that easy. I hear that all the time in that intro call. Like, going back to what we start off, every 3 weeks someone reaches out, hey, can I be a real estate? Can I chat with you about being a real estate agent? And they'll always mention, well, I just heard that my friend's aunt's dog has bought a home. I could have helped them. And it's like, it wouldn't be that easy, right? And also going back to what we said, don't think about this as transactional because maybe it would have been that easy for that first one, but that's not also how you build a business. And that's, in our opinions, not the way to go about becoming a real estate professional in this industry.
Yeah. Some resources as we conclude. Feel free to reach out to us individually as we are happy to have more in-depth conversations. And also we have our Thoughtful Realtor podcast where you can hear Kenny's voice as well. And we have some really good insights on some hard lessons learned as realtors, as business owners. I think if you can think of yourself, and Jenny's an entrepreneur, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in here. If you can think of yourself as a business owner and business owner more so than as a realtor, you will succeed because being a realtor, sometimes it can just be, very transactional or very what's urgent at the moment. But if you think about as a business owner, what's not urgent but important and get those things done, that's very key. So thank you all. If you know anyone who might be a good fit in these space, we are actively looking East Bay agent. We'll put that shout out there. But also, we just love being in good company with people. So if you know anyone that we should just know, please let us know. And if you want to know anyone in particular, we also are known to match make not only clients with homes, but people with their future partners and spouses. So it's a passion of ours. Any
Thanks so
questions?
much.
I think, let's see, did we answer all the questions? Yeah.
Let's see. I think is Jenny yeah, Jenny's still on. Maybe I can talk a little bit, and I know we're over time, so folks need to hop. Thanks so much for joining. Hopefully you found this informative, and you know where to reach us if you have any follow-up questions. Jenny, just to answer your question, you asked about transitioning from startup to real estate, and also real estate. Is it the real estate license required for investing? To answer that second question, the answer is no. I would say it depends. Like, if in some ways having your real estate license, I think, may be a little bit of a hindrance to the investing piece if you know you only want to do investing. Kind of going back to what Connie was mentioning about focus, and I just think sometimes like, as a real estate investor, right? I'm putting my real estate investor hat on. The commission fee that you might save by having your license might not be worth it if you want to build a real estate portfolio, right? Because a good real estate broker in that area likely has maybe off-market deals, which is much more common in multifamily or real estate investing world. So like, you trying to save whatever amount there may not be as prudent as actually just paying the fee, and actually on the buyer side, you're not paying the fee to begin with, and getting more deals effectively to build your real estate portfolio. And then to talk about the startup transition, I think you're able to hit the ground a lot smoother and with momentum working if you've had startup experience. Not only are you kind of, and it also depends on the role, but I think startup is a good training ground for a lot of real estate work that you'll be doing, but also you likely have a network, assuming it's based in the Bay Area, to potentially have that sphere of clients that you could start working with.
Yeah,
Cliff, kind of on that. Oh, sorry, Connie. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, working at a startup, you wear so many hats. So as a realtor, you do too, and that will be a very smooth transition of skill sets.
I wanted to kind of follow up on the having real estate license, like, and also being an investment professional. Aren't there certain, I guess, like, tax advantages of like being able to claim, that you are a real estate professional, and so therefore, like, whatever losses you might take, or is it like, can you kind of go into that a little bit? Because I think like depreciation is probably the same thing, but expenses are probably the same thing, but there are losses that you can take. I believe that you can't if you're not a real estate professional or some stuff like
Yeah,
that.
okay. Yeah, great question. I wish I could have a big disclaimer that goes out that says, I am not a CPA. Please contact your tax professional to confirm what I'm about to say. So you're right. Yeah, real estate professional status can be claimed, right, if you are full-time real estate agent or full-time real estate investor. My understanding of it is it's a very high audit risk if you work W-2 and also claim your real estate professional status. Because effectively, you have to work the majority of your time in real estate. So you're effectively saying, I work at least 81 hours a week, 40 hours W-2, 41 hours in real estate. And it's just very high audit chance because of the numerous tax benefits of being real estate professional status. But you're right, if you did have your real estate license, and you didn't claim real estate professional status, but you still had your own LLC, you still ran your own realtor professional business, you would have some stuff that you can write off. Car payments, like if you're driving to meet clients, those types of things, business meals. I think that's at 50% starting this year. So there are some benefits to it, to still having that.
Interesting. Okay.
But it's not as lucrative as I think you're initially thinking, because
I see. So it's like, if you have a W-2, then like, even doing the real estate license, or like being a licensed real estate professional, doesn't necessarily mean that like you could just say, oh, I'm doing it half time, because like the tax benefits that you're kind of claiming almost requires that you spend enough time that it's a full-time job essentially with the real estate part of it too.
No, I don't think so. So like, to claim real estate professional status, you would need to work the majority of your time
majority.
And real estate professional status comes with the heaviest tax benefits. If you just had your real estate license and set up your own LLC and work part-time and also with the W-2 job, you would still have some tax benefits. You'd still have some write-offs. Any of your business expenses would be, but like being able to write off effectively like depreciation and maybe we don't need to get into the details.
No, but cool. Thanks for
You get
clarifying.
some benefits, but not the full slew of them.
And alongside the benefits, it's good to know there are some expenses, because in order to actively apply your license, because as a real estate license or salesperson license, you have to actively hang it at a brokerage. And often brokerages do have fees associated with that for their own operations and legal perspective, protocol. And some of those fees include E&O insurance, errors and omissions insurance. Sometimes they're platform fees, desk fees, for kind of to cover all of the benefits that they provide. There was a question someone asked about, how do I even go about choosing a brokerage? And I would say there are a lot of facets. One, I think, is there a really good mentor within that brokerage that you can really connect with and know you'll be able to go to when hard stuff comes up? Another is, what's that brokerage's kind of reputation in the market you're hoping to serve? Because I think that plays a pretty important role. And do you like their marketing? Because I think a lot of brokerages are known for different styles and types and aesthetics of marketing, and that alongside the tools and systems that they provide. Oh, I love how so many of you stayed later. Tyler, do you want to add anything? Or Heather, do you have any questions? Feel free to unmute. All right, if not, I think we'll conclude here. Sandy, anything you want to share? Oh, thanks for putting that into the IRS publication 925.
Sorry, as a CPA, I had to make sure it was the right information.
Oh.
Love it.
Yeah.
We got a
Thank you, Sandy.
CPA in the house.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sandy, anything that you wanted to correct from yeah, I should have we had a CPA in the house.
And are you taking any clients, Sandy?
No, I am not. But yeah, most of what Cliff said was right. So the specific qualifications for like how many hours you have to work or whatever is in that publication. So if you wanted to refer to it, you can.
Thank you.
Love it. Well, yeah, let's wrap up there. Thank you, everyone, for all your really great questions, your engagement. If you want any more follow-up questions or want to schedule one-on-ones, you have our contact information for most of you. If you're not, you can find it on our website. And we wish you all the best. I think it's such a fun and dynamic career and a lot of opportunity in so many different ways. So,
All right. Have a good night. Thanks, y'all. Bye.
bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.